Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale as well as the series premiere of Krypton. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you don't want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I had to say about this week's episode of Riverdale, you can skip to what I had to say about the series premiere of Krypton. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Riverdale. This was a rough episode, and not in the sense of it was a bad episode. It's actually a really good episode, but it's just rough just because of the story, because it is what the show's been foreshadowing for such a long time. It's like everything imploding, especially amongst our main group. They are super divided. Like, obviously you have Archie and Veronica being on the Lodge's side, and then you have Jughead and Betty being on the other side. Like, because it's like Soledale versus Riverdale, essentially. Like, what Soledale has plans for Riverdale, and then Riverdale trying to keep its identity and fighting so hard. And it's not just them. Like, it's a sucky situation. Because for Archie, like I said, Archie's main problem with this whole situation is because of everything that's going down subsequently since the end of last season. All of that. I mean, hell, even stuff that happened, Jason's murder, all that plus his dad, the Black Hood, all that is what's pushing him in this direction, because everything that he's been going through this season at that same time, it's what's pushing him to be like, no, this is the right thing to do. You're not willing to see it. Even his mom is like, are you sure you're not just doing this because Veronica? Which he's saying like, no, like, but his mom has to be like, but don't forget, your dad is actually a really good man too. She even snaps at him at one point in the episode, is like, don't like talk to your dad. You're not going to sit here and disrespect him. Yes, you might have a difference of opinion, but don't forget all that man has done, worked, and sacrificed to get to where he is. He has his vision for Riverdale as well. And it's just sad because it's something I've brought up before. Like, no matter what, Archie always wants to do the right thing. Even in this situation, it might be a little misguided, but he does believe in this. Maybe it's because he believes in Hiram. Maybe it is partially just because it's Veronica too, and because he loves her, and he's diving into this a lot more. Like, that contributes to his loyalty. But also, I think there is a part of him that does kind of think it's the right thing. But there are lines he didn't want to cross. Even the Jughead situation in this episode, he didn't want to do it. But you had Hiram be like, whoa, don't forget, there's a blood pact between us. Like, there will be consequences for you not doing what I asked you to. On top of that, you have Veronica's whole situation, trying to run for student council president. That went down a lot differently, the whole Ethel and Josie situation, because I was like, okay, she's gonna make all these promises to Ethel, like, oh, get her dad a job offer, oh, Josie meet Andy Cohen, which that was pretty cool. He just randomly pops up and I was like, wait, what? Okay. But all that, I was like, oh, she's gonna try and make these promises, and then her parents won't let it go through, and it's gonna blow up in her face. It's like, no, it blew up in her face even before then, because Josie ended up ratting her out. And it's like, all the stuff that the lodges have done, they have to be stopped. And it sucks on Veronica's case too, because, and it's something she brings up to her parents, it's like, she literally has to suffer the ramifications for what they're doing. It's like, oh, we might be doing good for Riverdale, but not everyone else in Riverdale feels that way. She's doing whatever she can to hold on. She needs something to shield herself from all the hate. Yes, they're adults, but at the same time, she's a teenager. That's a lot for a teenager to handle. It's like you're telling her to keep her head down. It's like, it's really hard to do that when you've got everyone blowing it up in her face. Like, you're an adult, you're used to kind of dealing with people like this. Plus, but you know, that she's at that age where it's like, she can't really do much about it. I mean, she knocked the hell out of Reggie. She knocked him the hell out with that one punch. Bam! I was like, holy shit. I literally had to go, holy shit, that was crazy. And now, like, she doesn't even have Betty on her side anymore, because Betty was like, okay, I believe you. Because it's like, no, everything that happened is your parents. You're just supporting your family. It's like, oh, no, you've known for the entire time, and you haven't said diddly squat to any of us. You've been lying and pretending like everything's okay. And it's like, not only is it stopping Betty from running with her as her vice president, it's like, no, I can't trust you. That's messing with their friendship. Like I said, like, Jughead's talked about it, and like I said, it's been so heavily shadowed that they are just a powder keg ready to explode. And even compares him and Archie to being trains on the same track, just waiting to collide. And they had their collision in this episode because Archie cut him Jug free from the chains, like when they were trying to protest the school being torn down. And it's just like, it's sad. You see a look on Archie's face because he doesn't want to do that, but it's just like, I think it's that situation of Archie probably feels like I don't even know if him and Veronica 100% believe it. Because even Veronica said, like, The reason why she sided with her parents with all of this is because she wanted to keep them honest. That means you know that your parents are a little deplorable and that you had to be there to keep them honest. It shouldn't have to take you being there to keep them from doing bad things. She thinks that, because it's one of that situation of the ends justify to me. It's like, yeah, we have to do some evil things, but we do the ultimate good. But who's to say your parents don't have more duplicitous, end results? I mean, you see what Veronica's saying actually kind of hit Hermione because she goes, oh, wow, because I think they've been so focused on thinking about what this will be for them and their family in general that they haven't really took the time to really think about what it means for Veronica, that basically Veronica's entire life got turned upside again. Because it already was bad enough. Her dad went to jail. She moved to Riverdale. She found her place. She found happiness. She found love. She found best friends. She found her group. But then it's it turns upside down again. And she's suffering. Like I said, she's working with her family, but this is their thing. And she's suffering the ramifications for it. Then once again, Archie's butting heads with his dad about this. Plus at the end of the episode, it's his mom's oh, maybe he's sticking around. Also, their dad's running for mayor. I'm not surprised. I saw that coming last episode. I was like, yeah, that's totally where that's going to go. And now Archie's going to be divided even more. It's yeah, he sides with the lodges, but that means the lodges are Hiram's going to ask him to do stuff to go against his dad. And it's he doesn't want to, dude. Everything he's doing, it's partially because of his dad. Like I said, the sad aspect of trying to do the right thing. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, dude. I always love saying that just because it's the same thing as the good, do the ends justify the means type of thing. It's kind of along that same parallel, and that's why I just like that phrase too. So, and it fits this so well. So I'm curious to see what goes down for Veronica and Archie going forward with this, because obviously they're going to be Veronica's going to get the most of the blowback, obviously, and it's the entire school scene, Ethel's little paper, so it's that's going to be even more blowback against her. So especially if Veronica keeps going, there's going to be some people that support her, sure, but not possibly before, especially because Josie even stuck to dagger it even deeper by being oh yeah, I'm going to endorse you and everything just to end up betraying her. And and that's the sad thing is too, Veronica has to suffer the ramifications of her family did. She did take part in this, and that's why in Josie's eyes she's just as guilty, when it's just like I said, it's a lot to put on a teenager's shoulders. They put a lot on these kids' shoulders. Especially Archie becoming Hiram's basically a fixer. It's yeah, I need you to handle stuff that I can't get other people to do, because it's if you do this, it's fine. Even the cutting the chains is oh, we got adults do it with a little bad, but if we got other teenagers to do it, fine, who cares? It's not that big of a deal, so the blowback wouldn't be as bad, so. And at the same time, Archie brought up something interesting too. He was kind of why do you fight so hard for Southside? You literally went there for 4 days. But for Jug, it's that's where my family's from. It's did you forget that's where my dad's from, my mom, my, sister Jellybean? That's the heart of our home. Just like Riverdale is your, it's all these changings happening to Riverdale. Yeah, it's happening to Southside, but eventually, who's to say it's not going to build and turn more into a bigger thing in Riverdale? Obviously, Pop's being bought up. Who's to say more won't happen in the future? Because maybe it hasn't gotten to the point that something Archie loves and adores and cares about is being torn apart. I mean, at this point in time, you can make the argument that his family's about to get torn apart because of just this huge divide that's going to happen between them. But also, between him and Jughead, man, that's what I'm worried the most, that there won't be any coming back from this, because it's something I brought up before. They are not the same people that they were at the beginning of this season, at the beginning, all through last season. These are not the same kids. They have changed. They've grown into different situations. And at the end of the day, it's you want to lean, it leaves you conflicted, because it's obviously you want to kind of lean more towards Jughead and them. At the same time, you kind of get where the problem is, because you're well, it's really a prison. Is it really that big of a problem? Because it's going to give more jobs, bring more, stability to Riverdale. But at the same time, it's but you're doing this by tearing down a school that people were going to, that you're going about shady means of doing. It's just all the backdoor dealings and all the shady business you've kind of incorporated doing all of this. So, and then Betty's got her whole situation with Chick, which I love. The episode starts off with bam, I know you're not my brother. Mom, okay, Hal's not his dad. What? Immediately response to that, I was like, wait, what? That's crazy, dude, that they just kind of threw that. I love that they got that out the way immediately. It's like, oh yeah, this is probably lingering in the back of your mind, but it's like, no, we already answered it. It's like, Chick's dad is someone else. Because I'm like, so has Alice done a blood test? Did she absolutely know for sure that Chick is her child? So that does take back the part that I was like, oh, I guess I was wrong. Because I literally threw that out like the episode before last week's. Or like, oh, could he be an imposter? How did I not think about that before? And it's like, oh man, it turns out he might be an imposter. Turns out he's not an imposter. For now, there's still a possibility for that. But for Alice continues to defend him, and I don't get it. But at the same time, it's like, oh, he's so damaged, and yes, he's an oddball, he's damaged, but he's my son, and she's trying to keep the family together. It's just a whole bunch, dude. Then, like, Betty's like, oh, you thought you know my dark side? You haven't even begun to see my dark side. I'm like, ooh, Betty. And then she's, like, threatening him. It's like, oh, yeah, did you forget all the people I've taken down? Clifford Blossom, the Sugar Man, the Black Hood. Oh, you know what they all have in common? They're dead now. I'm like, ooh, Betty, whoa. Dark side Betty creeping out. Then the whole wig situation came out. It's like, what happened? It's like, oh, she wears that when she's having sex with Jughead. And it's like, her mom's like, wait, what? And then it's like, but then Betty brings up a good question. Like, how do you know that? And then Chick's like, I'm just a guess. I'm like, no, you freaking pervert. You followed her. That's the only way you would know that. Maybe you took a lucky guess, but I'm thinking, nah, that means you've been following her to know something like that. You weirdo freak, dude. I don't know, man. And obviously she tries to bury the hatchet, but then Chick kind of throws it on her. It's like, what? You're the one that's really scared. All the things you did, touching the body. Oh, you're the one that disposed of the car, calling all the people on that dude's car. It's like, dude. So he's so devilish, dude. Like he making Betty feel bad about it, because it's like, if anything really went down, she'd be the one to kind of suffer the ramifications for it. If not her, he didn't expressly say it, but her mom would. And it seems like, I guess that is his end result. I thought it was maybe just Betty and him, but I guess now he sees Betty as a threat. It's like, gotta remove him from the equation. Removed Hal, got rid of Polly, so now he got rid of Betty. I was halfway expecting him at the end of the episode to cut the photo, and it's just like, it's just Alice to himself. So he's such a deranged, broken kid that it's just like, he is the Otis. So for him, it's just kind of like, oh, I want mom all to myself. I didn't have her in my life, but it's like, mom, I love you, mom. Just like I said, there's a lot of deranged shit going on there. So to the point, she's like, I can't stay in the same house with him, so she's going to be staying with Jughead. So I don't know how that whole situation is going to turn, especially when Alice makes excuses after excuses, which I love that conversation about like safe protected sex. You know, she's like, oh, I know how those Jones boys can, kind of, seem so appealing. And then like Betty was like, ew, wait, mom, did you and FP? Wait, is FP Chick's dad? And he's like, no. I'm like, God, that'd be so messed up, because that would mean that you were having sex with your brother's half brother, and it'd be weird. I mean, to be fair, let's not forget there's the whole Jason and Polly situation, so it wouldn't be that big of a leap. It'd be a much bigger leap, because that situation was its own situation, but that was a cousin situation, which is going to make it okay. It'd be a weird, fucked up situation. Is all I gotta say about it. So. But that does beg the question, who is his dad? Is it someone in Riverdale? I don't know. Because I always knew that there had to be a intimate past between FP and Alice. Just the way that they talk and know each other. It's like, that's my only feeling about it was that, so. And on top of all this, you also have, well, for one, Kevin told Chick the truth. So that's super interesting. He's, I guess, him and, it's like, oh yeah, let's kind of fix it's like, oh yeah, because he really thinks like Chick is actually a really good person. It's like, that's why he felt guilty about it. And it's like, oh, so I guess that's gonna be something Betty's gonna be seeing more often, is them interacting like that. So that's gonna be rough. And then on top of all of that, I mean, really quickly, does that mean Hal knows about Chick not being his kid? Maybe that's why he's lashed out so much. They haven't said anything, but maybe that's because Hal has known from the beginning that the kid that she gave up was not his. So maybe that's what the big problem was back when they were in high school. I mean, I would assume just because she kind of was rolling with the serpents, I'd assume that must mean Chick's dad is a serpent, not FP, but maybe someone else. You don't think it's something like Tallboy, do you? I don't know. But the other thing I want to talk about is we do have Jughead running for student body president, because now like him and Veronica, like I said, the locking horns, like that group of four is going to be locking horns even more, because obviously, you know, Archie's going to be by Veronica's side through the struggle, and then you have Jughead having Betty by her side, and it's just like a lot of Jughead's pissed at Veronica and Archie, and I'm sure Betty's biggest problem was Veronica, but I'm sure she's going to be pissed at Archie too for what he's done and what's like they haven't come to blows yet, but eventually it's going to turn that way, and it's just like I said, it is just sad all around, and I don't know if there is any like. You can only hope. I hope that Archie turns it, because I side more with, like, cause you get the feeling like when your parents, Jughead and Betty are, like, I figured this was going to be like the divide anyway pretty soon, that I knew, like, I had a feeling like Jughead and Betty would probably end up being on Fred's side anyway, but, you know, like, it hasn't come to that, but I'm sure they're going to end up supporting him and stuff like that through all this. Plus, like, Archie's mom is back in the picture doing that too, and it's just like, it's just sad that things have kind of come to this, you know? And that's not even touching the whole Blossom drama. It's like, dude, her uncle and her mom are not kidding. First, they got rid of Nana Rose, because apparently they basically put a paralytic in her drink. And then what did they do? They're locking Cheryl up in a mental facility, making her seem like she's crazy. They're like, oh, we got to get rid of all these nasty thoughts you had. Immediately my brain goes, are they talking about like the whole her being gay thing? Like the whole her and Tony? Like, I mean, not unless her mom walked in on that. Like, she already knows about, like, how, you know, because, you know, Cheryl's already talked about how, like, her mom kind of, like, found her and her best friend back in the day, like, together, and it just, like, her mom was basically disgusted. So it seems like they might be using that, but maybe there's other stuff, too. I mean, the Blossoms, she might have enough revenue to kind of pay off people to lock her away like that, which just sucks, because that's the same place that Polly was locked in last season. So, and they're going to drug her up. So I don't know whether it's going to be a situation of they are going to like do something like that, try and like, oh, like zap the gay out of her or some shit like that, which is just super fucked up. If like, I know it's more to it than that, because they want her to be crazy, but they're even going as far as telling Tony, it's like, oh yeah, Cheryl's kind of going to school abroad. Yep. Never come back here again, which is like, But if they do that, there might be a side effect where it's like, oh yeah, like when she comes back, Cheryl won't, you know, be the same Cheryl. Maybe she definitely will be a lot more messed up. Maybe she won't feel the same way about Tony anymore just because of what they did to her. I don't know. I hope like Tony is able to get to her soon enough or something, dude. Cause that's super fucked up. Like, I know her and her daughter have their issues, but man, oh man, that family is so messed up. You're literally orchestrating, you know, in your case, in Penelope's case, her mother-in-law and her daughters, in Claudio's case, his own mom and his nieces, like, situations like that. I mean, you could have killed they could have killed Nana Rose, but I guess it's kind of like, no, she'd be fine. Like, I mean, maybe they were trying to kill her, but the old bat just wouldn't die. It's like, damn, dude. All for trying to get control. I mean, that's another thing, like, the Lodge is going to have to watch out for, because the Blossoms are coming after them hard. This might be even a situation that we end up bringing in, like, the Coopers, too. Because, I mean, you know, Hal is, you know, technically a Blossom and everything by blood. So it's like maybe he'll work with them to help take the Lodges down. I mean, even though the Cooper's paper has been bought by the Lodges, there's complications upon complications. This shit is getting airy. I know I'm cursing a lot in this, but I can't help it, dude. Like I said, this episode is rough from top to bottom. It's like no one's walking away from this episode happy. Maybe Hiram. He might literally be the only one that's walking away from this happy. Fred and his wife, well, ex-wife, are happy too. I mean, because they're kind of on top of the world, but everything else is just kind of shit right now. So I don't know. We will just have to wait to see where all of this takes us in the next episode. It's going to be crazy to see the continuation of this fallout and where everything lands when the fallout, well, settles. And now moving on to the series premiere of Krypton, a really great premiere. I do appreciate it immediately setting the tone and kind of giving you everything you need to kind of know about what the series is going to be about. This is also coming from someone who knows next to nothing about Krypton. I think that's what makes this so interesting, is that that's some only thing you know about Krypton. It's like, oh yeah, that's where Superman's from. Exploded and now his planet's no more. So that's really it. So I do appreciate kind of this and it's something they were bringing up in the previews and stuff I thought was so fascinating. It's not actually a prequel. It is kind of a story in the same vein of like Superman canon, because it's like somebody went back in time, is trying to change history and make it so that Superman's not bored, because it's like, yo, Superman's literally one of the best, like he's the champion of the universe. So it's like, yeah, kind of need Superman for a lot of stuff, which I can only make, my only argument could be like, it has to be like the voice of Raw. That person, it has to be that person, because it seems like you were the one that's like the most in the center of all of this. I mean, you're the one. It's like, oh, if you don't submit to this Raw, then it's like, oh, then I mean, this voice of Raw, then like you know, like in Seg's case, his grandfather Val ended up dying because of it. It's because he tried to warn about this. It's like, why would you kill anyone unless you're trying to keep secrets yourself? Because obviously they know. Because that's what it seems like it's all about. He literally was doing research saying, like, we're not alone out there. There's something out there dangerous coming after us. It turns out that thing is Brainiac, which I think is such a good pull, because Brainiac's a villain that hasn't really popped up a lot. Like, even in Supergirl, that's like, we got Brainiac 5 from the Legion. Smallville, Brainiac popped up for a while, but a little bit. But, like, this is our first time getting to see, like, him kind of being like a big villain, in my opinion. I don't remember him being like a huge thing in Smallville, but nevertheless. And he's also not popped up in any of the Superman movies that I'm aware of. At least not, definitely not in the most recent ones. So that's kind of cool. But nevertheless, he's coming, and it's like whoever's they're trying to make sure that Superman is never born has to be mine. And I have to say, it's got to be that person, whoever they are. I mean, that also would mean that they went back far in time or something like that, if that is the case, because it means that they came. I mean, we still don't even know how that whole thing came to be. And that's also another thing too, like kind of along those same lines, like Ra is like the god that they worship on Krypton, which if it wasn't for Supergirl, I wouldn't know that at all. And that's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I even prior to like this season of Supergirl, I never knew they even had like religions and stuff like that on Krypton. But it's like, yeah, that's a big part of their culture too, and like Ra is like their god, and I'm like, that's so cool. So it's kind of nice that they're playing with that too. So that must be like canonical to the comic books, not unless this is building off Supergirl to a certain extent, because I guess the argument could be made like all that is still coexisting, all that, like even this still kind of coexists with what's happening on Supergirl. It's just this is kind of like, you know, a time travel story and stuff like that. But nevertheless, it's just kind of interesting. And also the one that came to warn Seg is Adam Strange. Looked him up a tiny bit. I feel like I might, like, just looking at the one picture I saw with him, I feel like I might know who that character is, but at the same time, it's like, you seem slightly unfamiliar. Obviously, this show is probably going to get back into. I was wondering what, it seems like he's going to be a regular, because I was thinking like, oh, he's going to pop in like this one time, but it seems like he could come and go. Like, whatever means of time travel he's going through isn't permanent, which is kind of interesting. And I say that because, like, well, Legion rings are a thing, and they time travel, and they make it easier to stay time traveled. So it's kind of like he must be using some other means of time travel, which I'm interested to find out, like, what that is. And because it also means he's not part of the Legion or something. So it's like, how far into the future is he from? I assume he's from present day, but once again, I don't know anything about his character. We'll learn a lot more later on, but it's like, why him specifically? Not of anybody. Why him? Just a lot more we'll have to wait and find out. But I also appreciate the story being the fact is that it's like, oh yeah, Seg, his entire family, like, is lost there. They were stripped of their status. Like, holy crap. Because it's like the only family you really hear about from Krypton is like, oh yeah, the L's, because that's what Superman comes from. So that's the only reason why we even know that. But it's like, it does seem like we are going to be diving heavily into the other families, also learning a lot more about Kryptonian society. For one, like Kandor City, it seems like that's the main city of Krypton. I don't ever remember anything ever talking about like, oh, the cities of Krypton. Like, obviously where the Fortress of Solitude is kind of like on the outskirts of Kandor, but it's like, but you see, like, it's not just like mountainous frost. It looks like there are like destroyed cities. So like, is Kandor like the last city of Krypton? Is that like where the last of civilization is? I don't know. Not unless that's something we see going forward. I mean, I feel like there might be more. It's probably just something, maybe that'll be something we kind of get into, which also about the Fortress of Solitude, that's pretty neat. Because I was wondering, like, it seems like it actually belongs to Clark's great-great-grandfather, because it belonged to Val Seg's grandfather. So it's kind of like, huh. So it goes that far back because I didn't know this going like because originally I thought this was going to deal with like Clark's dad, like his biological dad. What is Jor-El? That's it. God, it's been such a long time with Superman canon. So like, it's been a while since I like rewatched Smallville. Like that was like 2 or 3 years ago. So a lot of that's kind of falling on me. But I thought it might be about him. I had no idea until like later on. I was like, oh, this actually deals with his grandfather. So we're going even further back, which is also interesting too, because that means like, I mean, to be fair, Brainiac's a machine, but still, it's kind of interesting that Brainiac is even that old. Which I love his design. I feel like this is his first time he's had that like design like TV or movie wise. Like I said, he hasn't really popped up in the movies before, but even on TVs, like even him, he was played by James, is it Maester? Spike from Angel. Like obviously he's played other things, but like that's kind of my pull to go from. I don't remember him having green skin. Maybe he did. Like he spent most of his time looking human, but I really dig this design. I'm not, it seems like they're going more with the Injustice design. I don't know whether that's more like how he looks like in Injustice 2. I don't know whether it's because maybe in more modern canon, he looks more like that. Because I remember comparing him to like the Superman cartoon from the 90s. He was definitely he was green, but he looked a lot more machine. In this, he looks very alien / machine. So that's kind of neat. But nevertheless, I'm straying far away. It's kind of sad, like things ended the way they did. Like Sir said, his whole family is gone. Like his mom and dad are dead. Which the actress who plays his mom is the actress who played Abby on Ray Donovan. I was like, holy crap, what? I had no idea you were in this. Oh, that's probably more reason why I didn't know is because sadly she died. And this also deals with like the Zod family line, which is super crazy because it's like her, like the L's, like Seg has a thing for Lyta, who is a Zod, which is weird considering like Superman and Zod's history. It's like, what? That's crazy. It's one of those things. There's a video I want to be doing recently. It's probably going to come out like well after this ends up going on. Hopefully it comes out this Friday, but I might kind of throw that in there. But it's like, we know the El and the Zod's history, and that's like crazy to me to think about that. It's like potentially that could be, or that is a thing. I don't know. I would assume that's not going to be a thing because even like Seg was calling it off because it's like, nah, I can't be like, we were already, there's no way it could have worked for us anyway. Even more so now that your mom literally killed both my parents, which is sad because even though she's kind of a hard ass and kind of seems very mean, especially the way during that like training, she like pushed Lyta to that point. It was kind of like, oh, beg for mercy, and she did. And it's like, we don't beg for mercy, and stabbed her in like her own daughter, which is like, ugh. But I guess it's one of those situations of like, oh, it's tough love. It's like, I'm trying to teach you, not trying to coddle you. I'm trying to turn you into a warrior that can defend us from when times turn bad. So that's kind of interesting. But it was kind of a situation of it was out of mercy because it's like, oh, they could do a lot worse than just kill you. I guess they were implying because basically it's like if things go bad when it comes to them, if they're found guilty, like to get any information out of there, they would go as far as hurting Seg, even if he's not involved, which he was, which you know is going to make Seg feel even worse because it's like, I am basically the reason my family's dead. I'm all alone. I'm the end of the L's, which even this is like, I mean, this is all, it's going to be about him getting back to like that point. Like you can make the argument, it's like, well, you already know where things are. It's like, well, how things are going to end up. It's like, you know how things should end up. Doesn't necessarily mean there won't be bumps along the road, which I'm still invested in because it's like, there's so much they could still do with that because this is canon that no one really knows about, which I think it makes this whole situation that much more fascinating. And because it also presents us an opportunity to learn more about, you know, like probably, sorry, another way of introducing characters like Adam Strange, who I have no idea who the hell he is. You know, it could be stuff like that. So there is a lot they can like mess around with. Like I said, because like with the way they set the show up, it is seeming like a very like interesting science fictional show, which, you know, obviously like Superman canon always kind of follows in that between because DC kind of falls between science fiction and fantasy a lot. But it seems like this is going to be a heavy, you know, it's on an alien planet and there's science, like the way everything is structured, not just like the technology, but also like the society structure. You have that Vex dude basically binding his daughter Nissa with Seg, Which even she kind of makes it seem like she's basically alluding to the fact is that she's the one that kind of set that up, which is like, okay, so it kind of seems like they're already setting it up to like, even Seg shouldn't trust you. It seems like you're kind of like, it seems like they're setting her up to be one of those characters, like from a mile away, you can be like, yep, she's going to manipulate you and betray you in some shape or form. So you might want to be careful around her type of thing. But I don't know. This is just like just from this premiere. So I have no idea like what they end up doing with her, but like, also, like that fact is of how children work in this. It's not like you don't carry children anymore. It seems like at one point in time they did, but they kind of went beyond that. I don't remember if it was Smallville. It might have been Man of Steel, actually. But I remember watching something that talked about how Krypton, basically how childhood works, that basically even before you're born, you're already destined to be who you are. I think it had to be Man of Steel because that's why Zod was kind of like, I was always born for this. Because you were literally like, it tells you everything. It tells you how long you're going to live and what field you're going to like basically work in. So it's crazy. And they did a very nice job of giving you a timer. What I can only assume just from the look, it looked like it's the blanket that Kal gets wrapped in when he gets sent to Earth. Basically, as it's being like, it's as Adam puts it, it's basically a time glass, an hourglass, and obviously when it disappears, basically everything's already completely changed, you know. So. And I do appreciate it makes Seg not necessary. Seg is obviously, and it's kind of a big component of the show, is the rebellious type, especially like how he's getting money at the beginning, literally betting on how long he can last in a fight, you know, keep up on his feet against those dudes. That was kind of interesting. So Seg isn't just some like scientist like his grandfather. He's kind of a scrapper too. So, and I guess you could make the argument that that's kind of like something that ends up getting passed down in the family. I guess the argument definitely is that, you know, Clark is a scrapper when it comes down to all the people he has to fight and beat back all the time. So, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. So, because he's not who I thought he would be. It's just kind of like, oh, you think of the L family, you think of them just kind of like, you know, it's like I said, it's taken a very interesting approach to it because I always kind of associate them kind of like, oh, very sciencey people or something like that. It's like, I mean, to be fair, Man of Steel kind of showed a little bit of that side of his family too. So this is probably playing with that too, of him just being like, yo, when I need to, I can take someone out. Like the guy who was trying to bomb the Voice of Raw dude. That was kind of neat too. Like the bomb, it seemed like it was placed in his arm. I guess like the mechanism for it, essentially the dead man switch was kind of in his arm, and then he just fired and blew it off. I was like, that's brutal. But there's also that group known Black Zero. I kind of missed that. I would assume that's kind of like some rebellious group. It does make me wonder, is that going to be something we see where like Seg has to join up with them if he wants to kind of accomplish what he needs to? Like, will he keep up with this whole Vex situation just to kind of get and do what he needs to do, continue his grandfather's research? Because it's like no one at the top is going to listen to him, and no one else is going to listen to him because they're just going like, oh, you can't listen to him. He's from the L's. He's disgraced. And even the fact is the Vexes are bringing him in just so they can keep him under control. But even like his mom was like, they're L's. Did you really think you could keep them under control? Like that they would submit to you? So I'm very interested to see how this all plays out going forward. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good